Oh, hello there. Welcome to Dark Bar. What can I get you? You just picked up the job and need help with it? Hold on, let me clean up the bar while you get around.
Come on!
Bonnie, how do you keep getting back in?
I love the young people.
Alright, that should do it. Hold still, that Zeal is still alive. Do you like gigantic swords? Do you like having the heaviest of armors? Do you want a little bit of edge with your heroics? Look no further as you can become a pro Dark Knight main. Alright, let's get to the pros, cons, and expectations before everything else. First of all, you're a tank. And I don't like repeating myself, so check these two guides out if you need to know what to do as one. You're also a job that makes use of their mana. Pros, aside from the amazing drip that comes along with it, you have, at least for the most expansion pack, the highest burst and AoE damage. If you want to feel like you are doing a lot of big numbers without being a DPS player, Dark Knight is a safe choice. You're also king of min-max mitigations, having the most small mitigations in the game which allow you to cover multiple small hits, some of which can be shared with allies, allowing you to cover up to 3 people at max level. And speaking of which, you have the arguably most versatile cooldown in the game as the Blackest Knight, at the shortest cooldown of any defensive mitigation, alongside arguably the second best invulnerability in the game, being both short on cooldown, easier to use, and being a full heal, only beat by Warrior's very low cooldown invulnerability. For cons, there are plenty. First and foremost, while the Blackest Knight is the most versatile defensive ability, it is also the only ability in the game that can actively lose you damage if used incorrectly. And while you are the king of AoE deletion of enemies, you do not have the durability of other tanks, especially Warrior, where you will take a little bit more damage than everyone else, especially when undergeared or early into a new expansion pack. And while they hit so hard their grandma feels it every 2 minutes, you don't really do anything between these things. Dark Knight is also extremely weak into level 70 with lacking in both damage since they have little mana regeneration and abilities, while also lacking defensive abilities since the Blackest Knight is a huge part of your mitigation. But all things considered, you are still better than Paladin players. You heard it here first, you holier than thou bastards. I'm coming for you. Now, when trying to learn a job in Final Fantasy, there's a distinct problem, unlike other games, where there is no one guide fits all levels, and I don't want to bore the audience to death by covering each level individually, so we will cover them at mainly 10 level intervals with main focus being max level. If you are not doing level 100 content, do not worry, you are not expected to be a god of your job unless you are tackling an ultimate or other content that forces you to be at that level. And if you are looking to tackle an ultimate after watching a beginner's guide, I don't know what to tell you. Welcome, fellow fledgling Dark Knights, to your brain deads. At level 50, except for Bard, there are no jobs that give any buffs, so your damage consists of your 1-2-3 for 1 or 2 enemies, or your 1-2 for 3 or more targets. While using your mana abilities whenever you have over 3000 mana, and pressing Blood Weapon every 60 seconds, with first press being after you use your first mana using attack. You don't have a way to close the gap aside from using sprints, and your mitigations are extremely lackluster as unlike other jobs, your only extra mitigation is Dark Mind, which until recently only lowered magic damage, which is utterly useless on most enemies and barely useful on the rare enemy that does do some magic damage. Your only saving grace at this point is Living Dead, which can be used as a free full heal. I unironically carry potions in my inventory just in case the healer is new or not up to par. That's it, moving on to level 60. Nothing much changes at level 60 really. You get access to Salted Earth, which does laughable damage until its upgrade all the way at level 90 content, alongside with more mana regeneration in the form of Abyssal Drain for AoE and Carven Spit for single target. While pressing Salted Earth and Carven Spit on cooldown is quite fine, Abyssal Drain is almost a full heal on wall-to-wall pools, so if your healer isn't up to the task, saving it to heal is completely reasonable. Aside from that, this is where you get access to Shadow Strider, which used to be Plunge and was used on cooldown for damage. It is a gap closer that does no damage, which makes it extremely versatile. It can be used to cancel knockbacks if timed correctly, and used for all sort of silly movements to get to hit the boss when it's running around more. I have covered this more in depth in my tanking video, so feel free to check that out as well, but getting a feel for using it now will save you a lot of headache later where it will be required to do so. The cloth split open as an angelic choir sings as the Blackest Knight wait, no. We are playing Dark Knight. The ground splits open as demonic laughter can be heard. Authorizes the Blackest Knight. Best and worst mitigation for Dark Knights. You will learn to law this thing, and let me tell you why. It gives any party member, yourself included, 25% of their max health as a shield for 3000 mana for 7 seconds. If it breaks, you get your mana back as a free use of your mana attack, so you do not lose damage for using it, if used correctly. TBN works in a special way where it is the first source of shield to break, so you do not have to worry about other shield abilities making it not pop. And while every other healing in Final Fantasy is affected by healing potency, the Blackest Knight just does not care. It will always be 25% of your target's max health. Never more, never less. This thing even ignores no healing penalties of none other than the motherfucking Kefka fight. That being said, it technically can be increased by abilities that increase maximum health as a synergy. But let's back up a bit and rethink what I just said. It costs 3000 mana. You can't just go willy-nilly with your mana anymore. This is where most Dark Knight skill comes to play. Not only do you need to know what's enough damage to break a TBN so you don't lose damage, you also need to worry about burst window of your raid buffs to save all of your mana so you can just use everything. And also you need to worry about if there's a mechanic coming up immediately afterwards so you don't get caught with your pants down without the Blackest Knight. Sure, you want to get one more attack for 5% sweet damage increase buff, but if you do so, you don't have a TBN. From here to level 100, practice and learn the Blackest Knight. It's okay if it doesn't break sometimes, even I get those, and I have 26,000 hours on Final Fantasy XIV. I only play Dark Knights, so learn to save a little mana. Learn the limits of how long it takes to get enough mana again. And speaking of mana, you get Delirium and Blood Gauge at this level. Blood Gauge can hold up to 100 and you spend 50 of it whenever you want to do a more powerful attack. Delirium meanwhile allows you to use 3 of these attacks for free while also granting you 200 mana for single target and 500 mana for AoE attacks while also having blood weapons 600 mana per hit. The catch? Each blood weapon hit also grants you Blood Gauge, with no way to spend it while your Soul Eater grants you 20 Soul Gauge. If you get carried away, it's very easy to be stuck in Delirium while you already have 100 Blood Gauge, and lose out on up to 30 Blood Gauge. This is an unacceptable damage loss, so dependent on what you're doing, you want to be always at 50 if you are going to use Soul Eater before your Delirium charges, and at 70 if you are not going to do so. Practice proper usage of your mana and Blood Gauge at this level, and you will be more than fine as we go on. Level ID doesn't get a title card. Your mana abilities get upgraded to do more damage, so fucking up your mana management is even worse, and you get Living Shadow, which you also press on cooldown, and it just attacks people.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of cards.
Welcome to level 90, and congrats! You now have access to 2 more damage abilities in the form of 2 charges of Shadowbringer and the second part of Salted Earth that actually does damage. This is the part where your opener goes from having not too much to press to that one Shan meme where he tries to fit more into his schedule. This is as close as it gets to what having sex with a sword feels like. Cherish it, as you do more damage than a DPS every 2 minutes. We will get to how to use your rotation later. You also get access to what turns you from save 1 guy to save 3 guys in a form of Oblation. It's a 10% damage mitigation on a 60-second cooldown with 2 charges. So if things go wrong, you can salvage it often by using both charges and a well-placed TBN. Paladins wish they were this flexible. Yeah, you saved the first one, asshole. How about the rest of them? And now, the long-awaited level 100, what does it add? Well, plenty of small changes. First of all, you get a fancy big attack after using Living Shadow. Your Delirium gets upgraded to have its combo, however this messes with your flexibility as using your regular combo will reset it, causing damage loss, and lastly, your Shadow Wall gets upgraded to Shadow Vigil, a massive 40% mitigation instead of 30% alongside a heal from it, which can be stacked with your upgraded Rampart. Now let's get to what the hell you should be doing as a level 100 Dark Knight. With changes dependent on how many targets you have between 1, 2, or 3 plus targets. Since you probably will be running dungeons first, let's cover 3 plus targets and wall-to-wall tanking. As I covered in General Tanking Guide, you can either do the Unmanned Provoke Unmanned or Gap Close into AoE to grab aggro. If necessary, Flood of Shadow can also be used while running between packs. You should be expecting the first group to die earlier. So once you reach your destination, use Rampart and TBN, followed by, while keeping your GCDs going, Delirium, Flood of Shadow, then Salt Salted Earth and Living Shadow, Abyssal Drain, and Shadowbringer. Then follow it up with using rest of your mana enough to cover another TBN while using follow-ups and secondary charges of your OGCDs. If your group is pulling their weight, mob pack should be dead in about 30 seconds. If it's taking longer, you can start using your smaller cooldowns like Reprisal, Dark Mind, or Oblation. For second group, you won't have your 2 minutes. So while we want to use our Shadowed Vigil, 40% mitigation is too much to pop TBN with. So use TBN just before finishing the pull, then use Shadow Vigil afterwards. You can follow it up with any non-AoE mitigations you wish, high preference on Arm's Length if the follow-up boss doesn't use AoE attacks. Rinse and repeat while adjusting for cooldown drifts that may naturally happen during a dungeon, and you will do perfectly fine. If all hope is lost and it's taking ages to kill things, use Living Dead. A single GCD when it pops will get you back to full health. Now that the easy part is out of the way, let's get to the usual single target fights where you will be facing a boss. First thing to keep in mind is if the boss hits hard enough within 7 seconds to break a TBN. If the answer is yes, which is most likely is in endgame content like extremes and savages, and no for normal fights. Use it right before a pull on whoever is main tank. This allows you to take advantage of initial mana regen and not overcup your mana, as we will be generating a lot of mana in the opener. Afterwards, you can either follow Balance's standard opener or what stubborn people like me that miss the old Dark Knight opener does. Keep in mind, your opener is delayed simply because some other classes need time to set up their damage and their buffs. We do not have this problem. If your party has no buffers, you can pretty much press whatever you want from the get-go, as long as you don't waste mana, cooldowns, or your buff. Now that the initial opener is about to end, guess what? Very likely a tank buster is coming. If we are not the main tank at start, put on your goddamn stance, so you are second in aggro. This is mandatory in most savages, and very helpful in all content in general, as if the main tank dies, you will get the aggro and not the most useful DPS in your group. Let's not get sidetracked though. Tank busters. What do we do about them? As king of small mitigations and the only damn job that has to sometimes sacrifice damage on opener to mitigate, make sure you have 3000 mana for the Blackest Night and either stack Rampart with Oblation, Dark Mind or similar, or use Shadow Vigil with TBN. This should cover you for just about all tank busters unless they require an invuln, in which case that is endgame content and you should read up on the fight itself beforehand. And 2 targets fights are simple. Instead of prioritizing 2-minute buffs, while it would be good and I'll land them during 2 minutes, you should be prioritizing hitting both targets with Disesteem, Shadowbringer, and Salted Earth. Hitting 2 targets will get you much more damage than 2-minute buffs if you have to choose between one. That's about it. If you have any questions, ask them below. And if you want more good tanks in your games, share, like, and push the video to the masses so they too can stop playing Paladin and pick up a better sword.